This is a soybean. Pretty small, right? We all know we can eat it just like this. But I'm here to uncover how something so small could have such a huge impact on the planet. From global trade to the food we consume to the clothes that we wear, chances are, right now, you're closer to soy than you think. There are 87.5 million acres of soybeans growing in the U.S., with the Midwest dominating in production and pioneering the way to sustainability. And sustainability is key. Today's farmers are finding new ways to farm sustainably, technology, and cutting-edge innovation. While most soy is used to feed animals and humans, the soybean is responsible for countless products. I'm going to take you on a journey covering thousands of miles, from the first soybean traveling to America through to why soy is being launched beyond our outer stratosphere, aiding mankind's mission to the red planet. Now, the Midwest is obviously the home of farming these days. So I'm from Iowa, from the Midwest. I don't know a lick about farming, though. But just 2 generations before me, my grandparents both grew up on farms. They were farmers. And so much information has been lost in that time, but I still feel this fascination with farming, this interest in it. The soy is hugely important to America. It's a huge export. You see it all across the Midwest. But I'm not in the Midwest anymore. I've traveled halfway across the country to the home of the soybean. If you're driving across the country, chances are you've seen soy, and chances are soy is closer to you than you think. I'm on my way to meet a soy expert. Yes, that's a real thing. Hey, Matthew. To find out more about this magic bean.
Hello, you must be Jeff.
I hear you can tell me a little bit about Samuel Bowen.
Skidaway Island, Georgia. It's around the place where the very first soybeans in America were planted. As a soybean historian, I was focused on the story from the 1880s on. Samuel Bowen comes as a bit of a surprise. He was a century before. He was producing an Asian soy food, which eventually built the soybean industry. He was a British guy doing it in Savannah, Georgia. All of that is to some extent unexpected.
How did it start?
He was in China for several years. He was taken prisoner in China because he had gone outside of the authorized Chinese trade zone and had run afoul of Chinese authorities. And when he came here, he had not yet bought land. So this land was actually not his. It belonged to the Surveyor General of Georgia by the name of Henry Young. And he asked Young to plant soybeans on his behalf. They germinated. Young said he got 3 or 4 harvests between March and October.
What's his response to it being successful?
When Bowen came from China, he held in his possession how to make soy sauce, even the fact that soy sauce was made from soybeans. He was bent on kind of capitalizing on that. And as soon as he could, he made soy sauce.
I mean, I understand the lure of it because my kids who don't like anything love soy sauce.
Yeah, well,
it's true for centuries, right?
You know, you can take a bed of plain rice and make it tasty with some soy sauce.
Yeah.
He was given an audience with King George III. He had kind of reached a pinnacle of status.
Yeah, as a colonial American who started out as a sailor to reach this point where now he has an audience with the king. When he passes, where is soybean? Is it a dead end at that point, or how does it continue?
It's pretty much a dead end. He dies. At that point, the soybeans probably die out with him. And in the absence of soybeans, the entrepreneurial mind tried to create substitutions, get other ingredients like tomato to make something called tomato soy. It was called ketchup, which is, ultimately the origins of the ketchup we eat today.
Because of trying to find a substitute for soy is the reason we have ketchup?
Yeah.
Within a year of proving soy seeds can successfully grow on U.S. soil, even after years of treacherous ocean voyages, Bowen invested in land around Savannah, all in the name of expanding his soy empire. Driving hundreds of miles through the U.S., I'm interested in how soy impacts the modern automotive industry, specifically a side of the industry that's unlikely to be associated with sustainability. Do you know who produces the most tires of any company in the world? I'll give you a hint, I'm holding on to one right now. It's Lego. Lego produces more tires than any other company in the world, but I'm interested in the real thing. So I'm on my way to the automobile capital of America. I want to meet the race crews on the ground and find out more about how soy is utilized in a motorsport not yet associated with reducing its environmental footprint. Hey, how's it going? Can I talk to you a little bit about sustainability in racing?
Sure, that's a subject I'm passionate about. My mom is a teacher and my father is a teacher. Okay. So we grew up making sure we knew how to take care of the environment. We were recycling before recycling was cool. Yeah. So we did all kinds of neat science projects as a kid. We look at recycled materials. We looked at how long it takes plastic to break down. We didn't call it sustainability back then, but we just called it doing the right thing or protecting the environment. And then I come and I work at a tire company. You get that addiction to motorsports and you think, okay, this is a really great thing, but how can we bring sustainability into it?
Grand Prix isn't a place you think about sustainability, but how is it happening here right now?
We're always studying. There's lots of different things we study in the tires, from using soybean oil and other natural oils to be able to supplement some of the other oils we use in the tire, trying to figure out how to incorporate more and more green and efficient things in our tires. And we want to be able to make those sustainable substitutions without sacrificing performance, and that's key for us. So we want to do something that's right for the environment, but we don't want to put any of the quality at risk.
And I think that's an interesting point, that you're being able to do it without sacrificing quality, because it is a nice idea, but if it's not going to perform, like, bad things happen, but you're finding that you can do that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we're able to use the platform of motorsports to make a pretty big impact. So the thing about racing and IndyCar racing is we're making about 30,000 tires per year. If you think about a traditional passenger tire plant, they're making that in one day. So we can use relatively low volumes of material and be able to have it in all of our tires and make a pretty big impact.
Let's say in 20 years, you're deep into your career, you've been there for a long time, where would you want to see things?
So by 2030, by the end of this decade, over 40% renewable materials in the tire.
By 2030?
Yes, by 2030, that's where we will be at. That's our commitment. And I want to see that keep growing. So not only how we get the tires, how we make the tires. Right now, when we're done with the tires go back to the city of Indianapolis, and they go to an alternative fuel facility that actually powers the city. Really making that bridge between the sustainability and the speed and the performance that we see is really key, and it's something that I know my mom is proud about.
Well, Kara, it's very inspiring what you're all up to. The Grand Prix has gone all out to make amends to preconceptions of motor racing, with team transport trucks running purely from renewable diesel. Well-known trucking and motor racing company Penske is even adapting their business model to accommodate sustainability, using fuel produced from plant-based materials and recycled fats and oils amongst their fleet of trucks across America. Getting away from the noise of the race, I'm trading cars traveling at over 200 miles per hour for a model a little slower, but still a well-renowned head-turner. To delve into how iconic figures through history have changed the face of agriculture, industry, and innovation. You don't see one of these every day, but from 1908, when this car was first released, this fine example of meticulous production line engineering began to dominate the streets of America. In the early days, it shared the road with horse and carriage, but over a 50-year transition, it became the preferred mode of transportation. This bad boy tops out at about 45 miles per hour, as long as it's heading down a steep decline. I've been invited to Greenfield Village in Dearborn, Michigan, to talk about a marriage between agriculture and industry, and an engineering pioneer who's still a household name today. Hey, Matt.
Hey, Jeff, how are you?
I understand you can tell me a little bit about Henry Ford.
Absolutely. Henry Ford was always interested in sustainability, and of course the notion of being green or environmentally friendly really didn't exist at his time in the early 20th century. To him, it just made good business sense to not waste products, to not reuse something whenever you possibly could. So he tried to incorporate that philosophy in his cars and in his factories.
That's always been the case, right? That agriculture and industry kind of work in tandem. We need to get our resources from somewhere to build these things. But he was interested in soy, wasn't he?
Absolutely. Ford, starting in the 1920s, began experimenting with a variety of crops, trying to find something that would yield great industrial value to him. Kind of settled on soybeans because it was an incredibly flexible crop in terms of what you could do with it. You could use soybean meal to produce a form of plastic. You could use the soybean oil to form automobile enamel or paint. You could also use it as a binding agent in cores, in factory molds. So a lot of uses for that crop. Think about things like gear shift knobs or window crank handles or switches on the car. Those were ideal uses for soybean plastic.
And did he get down the road experimenting with that?
In 1941, he actually finished a prototype soybean car where all of the major exterior body panels were made out of soy plastic. And of course, it was a lighter car, it was more dent resistant, and it was just a prototype to start with. But it's curious to wonder what might have happened had they had a few more years to develop it. In fact, when he was beginning to experiment with soybean body panels on automobiles, he had a soybean plastic trunklet put on his own personal car.
Okay.
He made a great show of swinging an axe at it, and of course, the panel wouldn't dent, it would just bounce back. What a lot of people didn't realize is that he put an additional rubber boot on the axe blade itself, and he didn't hit it with a blade, he hit it with a blunt end, but just that extra step to make sure he wouldn't have any embarrassing moments in front of the cameras.
That's great. That's, I guess, some innovative forethought there and some showmanship.
Exactly right. He introduces this soybean car just on the eve of American involvement in World War II. So when that happens, he's got to turn his attention elsewhere. And unfortunately, the soybean car not only falls by the wayside, the original prototype's actually destroyed. I wish it survived today, but it's only in photos now.
Well, Matt, thanks for taking time with me. This has been enlightening, very fascinating.
My pleasure. And before you go, we've got one more building here in Greenfield Village you might want to see. It's a Soybean Lab where a lot of Ford's experiments were done in the 1930s, right here.
Henry Ford was as passionate about education as he was about innovation, building a school right here in the heart of Greenfield Village. But today I'm interested in his soy laboratory. Hi, Deb.
Hi there.
I understand you can tell me about Henry Ford and his soy innovation.
How long do you have?
Give me it all.
You're in the building that Ford built in 1929 to look for plant-based solutions to some of his agricultural and industrial needs.
So how does soy catch his interest?
There's three things that soybeans are important for, and one is the oils, and one is the meal, and one is the biomass. But for Ford, it was really the oil and the meal.
Okay.
And it's a fairly complicated process to extract those two. This building held a 6-ton extractor.
And from what I've learned about Henry Ford is he's not going to stop there and say, okay, we're good. He's always thinking about what's next.
Yes. Time magazine called Ford the #1 soybean promoter.
Oh, okay.
He really created a social movement. It becomes a bit sensational by 1940 when he unveils to his chemical staff this soybean car. Having an entire soybean car was a bit of a PR move.
Which he was great at.
Ford was a master at it. Then there's a big press coverage and it gets the nation's attention.
Tell me about the unveiling.
I know that George Washington Carver saw the coverage. Carver writes Ford back and says, I saw the coverage of the unveiling of your car. And you said that you would free the farmer from certain dependencies, and this is a way to do that. In other words, they can put forward their own product, their own organic material that an industrialist could then transform into all kinds of synthetic products.
That's quite a statement and quite a person for that statement to be coming from, too. That seems like a huge moment.
That's the social revolution of it. It wasn't something that farmers alone could do. It took a person of Ford's scale to turn it into something viable.
And I've been discovering on this journey that soy is used in such a variety of different ways.
And what will the future hold? And that's the constant quest of a scientist. I always think of invention as something that answers a question. but innovation is something that solves a problem. So what are the problems that people need to solve in the future? So how are you going to ensure that your soils are replenished? The biomass from crops like soybeans help do that. They also, of course, fix nitrogen in the soil. That was of interest over a century ago. This combination of people who are invested in the agricultural sciences, the plant sciences, and the potential markets and industrial uses are going to continue to keep the answers to our needs moving forward. Have we impressed you enough about the Soybean Lab?
You have impressed me so much. This adventure is compounding my expectation that soy is a crop with multiple utilities. And to understand this subject better, I've been learning about seed diversity. I'm no biologist, and that sounds pretty complex. So I'm heading to a farm to meet farmers who are working at a microbiological level to keep soybeans working for us across multiple industries. Fortunately, I'm meeting an expert in his field, pun intended, who can help explain this complex subject. Quite an entrance. Brad, I'm Jeff. Good to meet you.
Got a lot to show you today, so you ready?
Let's do it. Brad's fourth-generation farm has been in the family for over 100 years. And of course, his truck is fueled by no less than, yep, you guessed it, biodiesel.
I'm going to give a little crash course in cross-pollination of soybeans.
Yeah.
Soybeans are pretty challenging.
Okay.
You'll see shortly. So what we can do out here in the field through pollen transformation, we can actually make new GMOs. Within this plot, you're going to see a lot of dead plants, and that's intentional. What we did here was we crossed into the germplasm a herbicide trait.
Okay.
And this is one way to checking it. So we sprayed the right rows, and some you can see was a total kill, and then some has survivability. And that's just genetics. That's the way that it advances, it segregates out. Here we have full tolerance of the herbicide. So I'm going to sit here.
Okay.
I'm going to set my umbrella up, and I'll give you the crash course of what's going on here. So take a look at those.
Keep tipping.
I usually don't sit on that one, so good trick.
After finding my footing, I'm ready to attempt the complex art of cross-pollination.
As you'll notice, we've got a purple flower here. It's a dominant color. Well, look here right beside it. It's got white flowers.
Okay.
So this is actually segregating for flower color. The white just really means I had a successful cross because I had a purple and white cross, and that's what I'm seeing, some of both. You want to give it a try?
Yes.
All right, let's do it. Here we go.
This looks so teeny tiny.
So what we're looking for here are blooms that are just slightly showing their color.
This is the one we're going for?
We're gonna go for this one right here.
Up top.
Yep, right there. That little bit.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, yeah, that's what you're looking for.
Oh my gosh.
So it's a very delicate.
Delicate's not strong enough of a word.
And why are we doing this? You know, there's obviously a reason why we're doing it. We want to improve this plant genetics. And we're losing farmland in the U.S. every year through expansion in business. We need to produce more on fewer acres.
Yeah.
And in the case, how we do that? Higher yield. But, you know, higher yields, that's not a trait that we can just go out and select. Yield is a complicated series of pest resistance, whether it's insects or disease, be wind resistance. We have storms come through here and knock a lot of this down. Could be hail damage, you know, what's the ability of the plant to recover, but herbicide tolerance. This is, you know, something as well that we want to breed in. Why would we want to breed in herbicide tolerance? Because we've got some really tough weeds out there to control in this area.
How about we make a deal? You stick to your day job, and I'll stick to my day job, which doesn't require such dexterity.
I'll do that. So now I'm ready. I can make the transfer now. So I pick a mature flower. I'm spreading it open here so I can grab that. That's what I'm looking for. I don't need this anymore. I've got the single cross made. So I can't just walk away from this. I've got to label it.
All right.
And I'm going to label it in such a way that I know months from now that, you know, it would be parent,
Yeah.
donor, how many times I did it. So I usually take a tag. Some people will put their initials on there,
Okay.
but we just want to wrap it around that main stem. Potentially, you just got a new variety. We'll call it Jeff.
So this could be the one that changes everything, huh?
Could be. We'll come back here in about 2 months. We'll check on
Yeah.
on the forward progress of this. So
And then 7 generations from now, we'll know this is the perfect bean.
absolutely.
I'm leaving Brad to do what he does best while I take my journey out of the U.S. to Australia to discover the global efforts in protecting valuable seed varieties from extinction. Unfortunately, I'm not booking a flight. I've set up a call with a seed bank in the Southern Hemisphere who classifies soy as a vital enough crop to preserve for future generations in the event of a global catastrophe.
Hey Jeff, how you going?
I'm doing all right. I appreciate you taking the time with me, Sal. I can't wait to hear what y'all do out there.
People have been collecting seeds from around the world for hundreds, if not thousands of years and using them as trade tools. Every single person in the world is a consumer of what gene banks or seed banks do. If it wasn't for seed banks and gene banks, there wouldn't be productive agricultural species, particularly for species that may be lost or varieties that might be lost for whatever reason. So they're still available, so preventing the extinction. So we're covering temperate and tropical grain crops here at the Gene Bank, and that's across oilseeds such as soybean. We've found that soybean has there's a real initiative going on at the moment to really look at growing that industry and potentially into areas where it's not grown now.
Why did they choose soybeans to look into as far as research? What qualities does it have, and then what are you finding?
So for soybean, it's a really valuable crop to growers. So it's an alternative high-value crop. There's a real beneficial approach to using soybean in a rotation mixture in the farming system.
How many varieties of soybeans do you have there?
So in the Gene Bank here, we have around 2,400 different types of soybean. You know, I can show you one of the vaults if you want to wander down there and have a look at the soybean.
Yes, that sounds awesome.
So we're about to walk into the freezer at -20 down here. So this is our tropical freezer where the soybeans live. Here. And all the way down the end, conveniently, we have our soybean down here. So this is what inside the vault looks like. Just at the end here. So in here, so these are our soybeans in here. So this is a soybean variety called Acadian. That one. So yeah, can we go out? It's -20, it's freezing.
Back in the Northern Hemisphere, the next leg of my journey takes me to the most western Midwest state. We know soy for edamame, for tofu, for miso, but what does it have to do with barbecue? Soy is vital for putting foods on the plates of meat eaters across America and the world. And where better to uncover the impact of soy on livestock's diet than an invite-only barbecue competition? Restaurant owner and well-known barbecue competitor Joe Pierce has taken some time out of his busy cooking schedule to show me his kitchen.
We've already started cooking ribs. You want to see them?
Yeah.
Cool. So they've been sitting here for about an hour and a half. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of grab 2 of these at a time. And I wouldn't grab 2 of them at a time unless you're a professional like I am.
Right.
Done this once or twice, but come on in.
All right.
Yeah, and so what we're gonna do is we're gonna flip these suckers meat side down, right? And so what that's gonna do is kind of let the meat braise in this foil. I'm salivating just thinking. A little brown sugar. You don't need a lot of brown sugar, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Get it up there, let it bounce off the forearm. Now we're gonna hit it with a little honey. It's all about layering flavors, right? We gotta rotate chicken while we're on the smoker. This is our busy time here.
Okay.
But we're gonna get these back on the smoker. We rotated chicken, ribs are wrapped. We're closing the door.
So obviously you have this interest in what goes into the feed and that sort of stuff. A lot of it is soy.
I'm a geek when it comes to a little bit of that stuff. So growing up in the Midwest, I mean, you can't drive 5 minutes without seeing a soybean field, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to not see it integrated into what we're doing, and it's an important part to make sure that what we have is consistent, and using those products and putting that product into the injections and the rubs and everything in between helps with moisture and flavor and consistency across the board.
That's not just coming from someone who kind of grills in the backyard. This is you, like a master at this. Joe, thanks. Get back to it.
I'm going in.
All right, I'm
See you
going
guys.
this way. Joe has obviously done his research on how to find award-winning cuts to give him an edge in this invite-only, high-end competition. Who better to judge the quality of the meat than the farmers responsible for growing the food feeding the animals? Hey guys, this event is awesome, it's expansive. Someone might say, how are soybeans related to barbecue?
Soybeans have been used in animal production ever since the soybean's been around. It's a really, really good source of protein.
Protein is important for any human or animal diet. The overwhelming majority of soybean meal that's produced in the United States feeds chickens and pigs and turkeys.
Soybeans are actually a very exciting crop because not only are we feeding people in situations like this, we're feeding their animals, we're feeding them through just about any kind of food you can add soybean oil to make it better. Soybean products are wonderful for people's skin, and now they're working on some other things that might allow us to ingest soybean to delay wrinkling, for instance, in people. I mean, some of the stuff that's going on with soybeans is so exciting.
Whether it be a human or an animal, the better the food that you consume is, the more efficient you're going to be, the healthier you're going to be. So it's better for the animals, it's better for us, it's better for the environment, all a win-win.
We need to get going because we have to go judge a competition.
We get to go eat meat from world champion cooks.
I don't want to be the one that keeps
And we
doing
don't have to
that.
pay anything to do it.
Let's go. It's evident there is as much passion for creating a family environment here as smoking world-class meat.
Slaps BBQ.
Sarah and Brent have inspired me to delve deeper into why such a high percentage of U.S. soy is dedicated to feeding livestock. Soybean and pig farmer Jim Douglas has invited me to his family farm to see firsthand how soy keeps America's farmers in business.
So I am the fifth generation here. There's about 16,000 pigs at one time here. This would be an example of one of our pig barns.
What are these for?
They're level biosecurity. That way you won't track anything in and out of the barns, and you won't spread anything in the barn.
Do you ever wear these around town?
So, Jeff, this is typical of one of our hog barns. We're walking in here and we're looking at the general well-being of the pigs. You know, you just look at these animals here, they're upright, ears are upright, they're not lethargic. That's a feeder with a corn soy diet.
Okay.
In the feeder. They have access to water behind that.
Tell me why is this feed good for hogs? Why is soy in the feed good?
A soy-based diet has good metabolized energy. You know, they're used to that diet. You know, they don't like changes.
Like my kids. It's the equivalent of me feeding my kids macaroni and cheese over and over. Tell me, what's the science behind all this?
You know, a recent study completed by Kansas State University, pigs fed soy-based diets are much higher than energy than they originally thought. And that just provides just a quicker growth rate for the animals.
So I've learned a lot about the feed and the diet. How does it come together?
We have an on-farm feed mill here, and we'll take a look firsthand.
All right, sounds good. I can see that Jim cares deeply about the well-being of his farm and livestock. A proud family man. Like so many other farmers, he's passionate about playing a vital role in such an important industry. Every time I've driven by a farm, I wonder what goes on in these.
Well, this is, you know, our feed center here. We get at least 1 load of soybean meal in a week. This is some residue left over from the last load, and so that's ground soy.
Okay.
But this is right out of the processing plant, approximately 48% protein.
It's interesting to see it in the palms of your hands, literally. And it smells like cereal.
Smells like cereal, has a good aroma, kind of like a distiller's grain, you know, a brewery.
So how important is a pig's diet for their well-being?
It's utmost important. So, you know, again, you look at those weights. If he's underfed, that would allow stressors to affect his potential health. If he's overfed, that's money being wasted. So to match the proper diet to his size, the exact amino acid that he needs is super beneficial for his health. It's actually the amino acids that are in the soy that the nutritionists balance for, which soybeans pack full of the proper amino acids that they need. Isoflavones that have been identified, not only good for human health, also been good for pig diets too. And there's a lot of work being done on digestibility, probiotics, and gut health, I should say.
Sure.
So that's why it's so valuable.
Do you grow soy here on the farm?
Yes, we do. I'll take you down. We'll look at a soybean field.
Let's do it. This looks fun to drive. Farming is big business, but U.S. farms are often small, family-run operations, not huge corporations. Jim's passion and drive for producing high-quality produce is indicative of family farms across America. Jim drives half a mile from the farmhouse where his young grandkids get to explore the farm with his son and daughter-in-law, showing me this season's soy crop responsible for reintroducing valuable nitrates into the soil. All right.
So, Jeff, this field of soybeans planted the first week of May. So here we are 2 months in the growing season. You know, we've had rain over the weekend, so that provides the moisture and growing good, so we're very happy here.
Yeah.
These beans have already started the reproductive stages. Those purple are blooms. There'll be a lot of purple blooms on it, and each one of those will represent where a pod will be. That pod will develop.
Yeah.
And be a soybean pod with 3 beans, 4 beans into a pod. The leaves will yellow as they mature and then all drop off, and you'll just have a stem left of mature soybeans.
Okay.
The last 10 years, no matter what the economists have said to us, at the end of the year, we're short of soy.
Yeah.
And, so it just shows you the demand, and a lot of it's in the export market. It's the best feeling possible. You know what I mean? When you know this soy that we're harvesting here, some of that's going to go for human consumption.
In your mind's eye, do you see one of your grandchildren out here planting someday?
Well, you know, I'm tickled to death that they're here. Yep, you know, it's a good place to grow up. You know, you look for the future. You look more than just 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road. And just use your best judgment to take care of this land. Hope to pass it on in better shape than you received it is tremendous.
Well, Jim, thanks so much. Thanks for showing me around.
Jeff, it's been my pleasure, and you're welcome to come back, bring your family.
All
anytime.
right. Who's driving now?
I'll drive.
You drive? Okay, it's probably safer. I'm back on the road, heading 600 miles south. Soy is used for so much more than just feeding livestock. Steering away from farming on land to dive into soy's role beneath water, driving America's fastest growing food industry. Fish farmers rely on American-grown soy as a source of protein for fish farms. So I'm heading to a coastal state known for barbecue and sandy beaches, and a university that is leading the way in fish farm technology. Jesse has pioneered aquaculture technology, bringing his cutting-edge water management systems to farmers around the world. Hi, Jesse.
Hey, good morning.
How are you?
Glad to have you here.
Yeah, how are you?
Sunny Auburn, Alabama. It's a wonderful day to be here and be alive.
I understand you can tell me something about aquaculture.
Well, this is a good place to do it. Follow me and we'll go see some things.
Yeah.
This place has been operational since about the middle 1940s. And one of the new innovations that we've been able to develop here with support of soybean farmers is this raceway technology. We call them in-pond raceways.
Okay.
And they're able to take the same pond that we're typically, in the traditional sense, we're able to grow about maybe 6,000 or 7,000 pounds per acre in that, using that technology. But using this technology, we can triple that.
Wow.
So we can do a lot more with the same water, same energy, same everything. It's just the way we manage the water a little bit differently than what we do in traditional systems.
That's a big deal. Whoa.
Give you an idea. A little bit loosey-goosey.
You ever fallen in?
Oh yeah. When you're working out here and a lot going on, it's easy to step off. As we come out, we take a look at this particular project. They're growing tilapia here. They're in the raceway. The water flow is gentle. This is just where we hold the fish. The real magic to it is how we move the water around and around in the pond allows the pond to be more river-like and less pond-like. In traditional aquaculture, the pond is static, meaning it's just laying there. And whenever that's going on, just like any water body, you got living organisms in the water column. Phytoplankton, zooplankton, bacteria, all that sort of stuff. Well, they all have a life cycle. So they're being born, they live, and they die, and they rain to the bottom. Well, so you have this organic loading that's occurring in the pond all the time. And when we add nutrients and feeds, we're adding more load. So what we're doing with this water movement is we're mixing the water vertically, but we're also mixing it like a river horizontally.
Gotcha.
So all of the biota that's living or dead is kind of tumbling along in the water column, and it's being exposed to oxygen molecules. Well, the oxygen is what occurs, is what we want to happen, is occurrence of oxidation. Now we can go over here and we'll take a look at the oxygen meter, and I'll show you how it looks in this system. Yeah. I'll let you, you'll operate this thing.
All right.
Hold on to that. If you drop it, I'm gonna have to throw you in after it, so.
Okay.
Take that probe and let it go down into the water.
Let's try it out.
And right now we're measuring it about a foot underwater. Okay, so what do you see there? What is the oxygen level that you're reading?
I'm reading at 7.58, changing a little bit.
All right.
Yeah.
For this fish, that's like heaven.
Gotcha.
That's exactly where they want to be. If it's below 1, they're thinking, how can I get out of here, because I'm going to die if I don't.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you take this, and we're measuring at the surface now, but in this mixed pond, this raceway pond, what do you think you'll see if you let it down to the bottom?
Well, my understanding will be about the same.
Should be. Why don't you crouch down there and let's measure and see.
That looks real similar.
But it's about a half a part per million different at the bottom. So,
and that's pretty negligible.
Yeah, it's very negligible, yeah.
And what does that mean for the fish?
What we want is 1 pound of feed in to 1 pound of fish out.
The closer you can get to 1 to 1.
The closer to 1 you can get, the better. In fact, some of these fish are so efficient in this environment, especially when they're younger, we can have an FCR of 0.8 to 1, okay? If you're doing it right in this kind of a system, you can get a 1.2, 1.3 worst case. We have some feed here that we'll offer these fish, but just like our children, sometimes they come and eat and do very well, and other times they just pout about it. So we'll see what they do.
I know how that goes.
This feed is probably, judging on the size of these fish, is probably 32% protein, and it's probably about 40% of the ton of that feed is soybean meal. So
all right,
get a little feed there, and we'll offer it and see what they do.
How much should I get?
Just start with that.
All right. Going in here,
and let's see if they'll come up.
All right, here we go. You can see the water flow with the feed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
If they're getting excited, so whether it's here in Alabama or all around the world, soy meal or soybean products are going into the diets to provide the nutrients, and particularly in the protein, that these animals need. Same thing with chicken, same thing with swine. When we're feeding this tilapia, the tilapia is an omnivore. So they can utilize plant proteins very well. When you're growing other species that might be more predatory or more carnivores, we now also have, instead of using fish meal, we can cut the fish meal use way, way back. And in fact, in some cases, we eliminate it altogether by using a soy protein concentrate that's processed soybean meal that makes the fish's digestive system think that it's meat.
Yeah, there's so much protein.
Exactly, it's all plant-based. It's not animal-based anymore. So
that's incredible.
It allows us to get these kinds of fish produced and in the marketplace in such a way that it's affordable.
So what I'm hearing you say is soy benefits the farmer, it benefits the consumer.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like you're saying it benefits all of us.
We can produce more fish, more cheaply, more reliably than we can as we see from traditional ponds.
I take my aquaculture journey from tilapia farming in Alabama over 2,000 miles west to America's coastline to find out more about farming the highly sought-after bluefin tuna. When people think about LA, they think of the beach, surfing, Hollywood. But I'm here to talk to some people that are on the front lines of the innovation of soy and aquaculture. I love sushi, and I've never made sushi. So I'm excited to kind of get behind the scenes and see how it's made, maybe get my hands in there a little bit. Alex and Chef Andy are Soy Innovation Award nominees for their technological advancements in aquaculture. Alex and Andy, hey. Good to see you. I am so excited because I love sushi. How are you all involved in making this happen?
The tuna is king of the fish. So it is not cheap one. It's sometimes 30 or 40, 50,000 in a piece. So each piece is expensive. So it's not like a burger. You have to have very high standard. You can see that we have a beautiful tuna in here. There's fatness in here. This is a typical bluefin. So we can use for akami on the top. We have fatty area. It's a little bit more oily taste. We are looking for a marvelous that's not whitening, it's more pinker and more white. So you can see there's a red part. Then we can see the coming to the bottom section is more fat. It comes in. That marbling that's what we're looking for.
The bluefin tuna is probably one of the most important elements. Soy enables us to depart completely with a traditional way of making feed, and we produce the feed that creates that texture, that color that people love. Tuna are visual feeders, so they go after the shape, but they also go after the texture and the flavor. So that's when soy comes in such an important effect. First of all, you can see that it has this texture that is soft to the mouthfeel. It also is able to release certain chemicals that attract tuna, and the shape of it catches their attention.
Okay.
Again, once they see it, they grab it. If they like it, they ingest that, and if they don't, they spit it out. Fish love this feed.
Yeah.
So now we can tweak it such that we resolve stress issues, color issues, fat issues, and so on.
So soy products makes me is more bluefin tuna, making very more special.
Yeah.
Because it tastes white, color white, and the terms.
I'm sold on the theory of this innovation, but I want to taste it for myself and maybe pick up some culinary skills to take home.
I'll give you seaweed. Go ahead and cut.
Can I just tear it?
Yep. Good job.
With Chef Andy's help, I'm sure I can make something pleasing to the taste buds and maybe even the eye.
Cut it in half.
I feel like you're helping my marriage right now because I'm going to go home with skills.
Now we need a piece of a tuna for you. We have a bluefin and a roll up. We need to do cut by 4. So put together.
Mine needs a heart surgeon.
Well, I just want to send it to your wife.
Yeah.
Shall we taste them?
Sure.
Dip it in the soy. After honing my new skills, well, sort of, and recharged with a full stomach, I'm inspired by where else soy might find its way into unexpected industries. So I travel inland, 2,500 miles east, and turn my attention from biology towards chemistry. My next stop uncovers how soy could be decorating your home with seemingly unlikely products I guarantee you see every day. Founded in 1883 and acquiring the iconic Glidden Paint Company in late 2013, PPG is a dominant presence in Pittsburgh. With their name on the 19,000-seat capacity flagship PPG Paints Arena, and offices throughout the city dedicated to research and development. Hey, Steve.
Hi, Jeff. Steve Sarma, team lead for the PPG Woodcare Lab.
I am excited to be here. I've never been in a Woodcare lab in my life.
So before we begin, you're going to have to wear a lab jacket.
All right. I haven't been in a science lab since high school, and this is bringing back memories of Bunsen burners and freezing fruit and liquid nitrogen.
Never buttoned a lab coat before.
I suspect Steve's talents vastly outweigh mine when it comes to innovating with new chemical compounds.
And then here you go with the safety glasses.
All right. Show me what you're working on.
Our lab is responsible for product innovation, product development. Basically, we have a whole line of stains.
I've definitely picked out stains before. I've stained wood, but I've never thought about what goes into making it.
There's a lot of considerations when it comes to formulating a stain. We do utilize soy-based products in a variety of wood stains. Mm-hmm. We also utilize it in protective and marine coatings and automotive coatings as well.
Yeah. So how is soy used as a component in putting stain together?
The two soy-based raw materials can be either in the form of actual soybean oil, or when modified to form an alkyd resin. This provides the backbone of many of our formulations as well. So an alkyd resin is basically, it's a chain of fatty acids, it's a polyester. Basically, it takes some of the properties of drying oils, enhances them further to really dial in, the attributes that we're looking for.
Steve shows me the soybean oil used in PPG's lines of wood stain.
So the soybean oil, even though it's a liquid, it's actually considered 100% solids. There's no volatiles in here. So when this actually hardens in a coating, nothing is given off, nothing is evaporated. It's 100% bio-based. So let's apply the Olympic Elite product.
Okay.
You grab a brush and start staining away.
Does the amount of soy influence any properties within the stain?
It absolutely can. So if you have more soy in the form of soybean oil, that's going to improve your penetration.
I would never think of soybean oil necessarily being an ingredient. So when did that start?
The Glidden Company were pioneers in solvent extraction. They were the first to actually extract soy protein from soybeans. And part of that was very innovative in the sense where they thought that they could put these ingredients into paints, develop paints and stains, and get the properties that we were looking for, very desirable properties with hardness, flow, leveling. During that time, Percy Levon Julian joined the company, an African-American research scientist. Actually, as part of that, ultimately synthesized cortisone from soy.
Okay.
Went on to have a great career with Glidden, ultimately was part of 130 different patents. And again, throughout that time, Glidden basically perpetuated the use of soy products in paints and stains.
Wow. What you're doing now is built on so many experiments in the past, long, long ago, that made these building blocks to get to where you are now, advancing it, and someone in the future will be taking what you've created and advancing that further.
Absolutely. It's a very fascinating concept to think that this stuff started back in the 1800s in some cases.
This would be, actually, I feel like I'd be a good spokesperson for you guys, that even someone like me can make it look good. All right, well, I think I'm ready to hang this up in my house.
Nice piece of art for you.
It's art.
Yeah.
Almost 300 years ago, soy's introduction to U.S. soil has been fueling American farming and export trade. But where does mankind go from here? How do we push the boundaries of feasibility? And what does the future hold for soy's application? The human race has always speculated on what it would be like to live on another planet. And the fourth rock from the sun, Mars, has always been like a focus of our interplanetary ventures. Now, obviously, I'm not on Mars, but I am on the western slopes of the Mauna Loa volcano. I'm on my way to the high seas, which is the Hawaii Space Exploration Analog and Simulation. Now, of course, I'm curious to find out what soy has to do with interplanetary space exploration.
Hey, Welcome to Mars.
I cannot wait to hear what all of this is about.
It's quite an amazing place. Why don't we go inside first?
Cumulatively, Michaela has spent over a year in simulated Mars and lunar conditions.
So through here is the main part of the habitat. It's called the habitat because that's where we live or inhabit during the missions. Here we don't have to wear spacesuits, and we can kind of live as if we were on Earth.
How do you kind of sum up what you're all doing here?
But the main focus is on the research that we do. So we try and test things like what kind of food we'll need to grow during future space missions, what kind of rovers we will have that will help us explore, the geology, astrobiology, so searching for life in space, all these things that we will one day we'll be doing on Mars. We need to test it here on Earth first to make sure we're fully ready for it. But a very important part of the habitat is actually right here. It's a very social area. Please have a seat and enjoy it yourself a little bit.
So this is like literally a dinner table.
Yeah.
What are you eating here?
Variety of things. Let me show you some of our freeze-dried options we have. This container of onions could last for a year. Considering that, it's pretty light. So onions, again, I wouldn't recommend you eat it, but you can actually smell them quite far away. They're intense.
That is intense.
And because it's so intense, it has actually caused a lot of digestive issues. The body just could not handle it. That it's very advantageous to have freeze-dried food because it's light. It can be stored for decades actually, so it would survive the journey to Mars and all that. But it's completely deprived of nutrients. Like 90% of the nutrients are gone. One of the things that made actually surviving here on missions really great was that we were able to grow our own food. For example, different types of salad, even tomatoes were attempted, soy. So it's little things, but they make a huge difference. Why don't you get to try actually growing some soy using Martian soil or simulated Martian soil?
Let's do that. Can we do it now?
Yeah, okay. Let's go put on some spacesuits. Let's go into the airlock. Want to close the door behind you?
Okay. The things you do in the name of research. The spacesuits, like the rest of the habitat, replicate conditions on a real spacewalk. The thickness of the gloves allows potential astronauts to get a feel for dexterity during missions. Even the rebreathable oxygen packs designed to filter out carbon dioxide and recycle oxygen replicate real-world situations. With decompression and the airlock complete, I'm ready for my first Martian mission. And hopefully not my last. Next stop, Mars?
Oh yeah, you have the honor. Let's go. After you.
I gotta say, Mars is beautiful this time of year.
All right, so we're gonna go up that hill now. Just take it easy, because it's more difficult to breathe when we're wearing these spacesuits. This looks like a good spot. Why don't we collect some soil here? All right, so we're gonna fill these up. Normally we would use something like this.
Okay.
So you would try and get the finest possible soil to fill that up. So why don't you try just how difficult that is? The soil on Mars has been weathered and altered for millions of years, and a lot of it is actually toxic and very dangerous for life. So we'd have to bring it into a lab facility there, something similar to like what we have in here at High Seas. We'd have to process the soil to get rid of difficult chemical compounds like, for example, perchlorates. So it would be best to mix it first with some soil from Earth to help the plants be able to grow. Ideally, eventually get it to a point where we could just use Martian soil.
Yeah, just keep kind of adapting and innovating the seeds.
Exactly. And we've been able to mix it with Earth soil down to a point where it was 90% simulated Martian soil and only 10% Earth soil, and it worked. Plants were able to grow in that.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, so it really gives us hope that something like that would be possible one day on Mars, and that's why we have to keep on testing it in these simulated environments. All right, so now that we've, gathered enough of our simulated Martian soil, we're gonna go back to the station and plant some soybeans.
Back in the safety of the habitat, Michaela set up a laboratory to replicate experiments due to be conducted on future Martian missions.
Right. Yeah, that's where all the cool stuff happens. So this is our Martian soil that we just collected, and here we have some Earth soil as well. And so what we're gonna do is gonna mix the two.
Okay.
All right, so these are the tools you can use to move some of this earth soil into this Martian soil. And so this is approximately 90% of the pot, so you're basically just gonna fill it up almost to the top.
Okay, so talk to me about soy in space.
Sure, so we've actually tried to grow some soy here on missions at high seas. It does take a while to grow it, so we first tested whether germinating at all would work, which it did. But for example, on the International Space Station, they have been able to grow it, harvest it, and eat it there themselves, and it's turned out to be a really great crop to have. It has a lot of interesting nutrients. It can grow in microgravity with very limited resources. For example, it doesn't need very much water, and other things that a lot of plants actually do require. So it is considered one of potentially 8 crops that could potentially be used during long-duration space missions. Soy can be used in even technological experiments, for example, in 3D printing. And so it is a bit of a Swiss Army knife in many ways. It can be used for multiple purposes, and that's why it's so very useful for space exploration. Okay, great. So here are the soybeans. So you want to grab 3 with just 1 spatula. Okay, perfect. Look at that. Oop. Very nice. Okay, and just gently up. And then let's do the same with the other. Nice. Okay, you just gently cover it.
Okay.
Make sure it's kind of smoothed out.
All right.
All right, and finally, there's some water just here.
That is so dry.
With time, things will start evolving and growing. And perhaps with time, the plants will adapt to this other environment, but we won't know that until we're finally on Mars one day and we've had time to test different ways to grow these plants, see if they can survive with less light and colder temperatures and the other challenging conditions of the environment on Mars.
This is cutting-edge technology. Soybeans are cutting-edge technology, and we see it happening here.
It seems like it has huge potential to do well on Mars, so I believe that it'll probably be one of the first plants that we take to the red planet.
The finishing touch to my Martian soy experiment is to place the seeds next to one of the only 2 windows in the habitat. I've learned so much.
It's been a pleasure, and you did it really great.
Oh, thank
Well
you.
done.
So am I an astronaut now?
Getting there.
Back on Earth, I'm in my home state. It's been quite a journey, taking me thousands of miles across America. Soy is such a hugely versatile commodity. It's not only feeding animals across the globe, but also makes a vast contribution to America's export market. Soy is responsible for changing our world for the better, utilized for innovations like tires and changing the face of eco-friendly transportation, even in unlikely industries like high-end motorsports. Soy is used in everyday products we rarely associate with farming, like cosmetics and clothing. The magic bean isn't just a fundamental part of planet Earth's growth and innovation, but it's due to be vital for space exploration in the coming decades. In mankind's ever-hungry ambition to discover new planets and push our race to the limits of feasibility. I wonder if Samuel Bowen ever considered his contraband seeds from overseas he planted almost 300 years ago would play such an instrumental part in both American history and humanity's future.